Hello and good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Backlog Banter. We are here for a surprisingly high energy, considering I just woke up, review of new Pokemon Snap for Nintendo Switch. And we're going to be talking about that game. But before we do that, get in the description and join our Discord to talk to us about it. Subscribe, like the video, all of that. We're content creators. We have to do our spiel, but we're also here to talk about a game that we both finished yesterday, a game in a series that we're both really like, a game that Abram, I want to know your overall thoughts on.
Okay. See now here's the thing. You're bringing the energy. You're bringing the energy, right? So I
Yes.
hate to say it, but I'm not a huge fan of new Pokemon Snap.
Hey,
I
here's the
like
thing, you
the
can
game.
still have energy on
That's a good
something that
point.
you're
That's a
that
good
you're
point.
mixed on. Yeah.
Then I
Because
just
guess
don't like the
what?
game too much.
Guess what? I'm gonna
Yeah.
bring the energy on a game I didn't like too much either.
Yeah. Tucker, here's the problem. I played the original Pokemon Snap earlier this year and I really loved it. And it obviously new Pokemon Snap has a lot of just objective advantages over that game.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that this game has so many blatant design decisions that are meant to pad out the runtime and
Hmm.
slow down the experience and mediate between the player and just getting to be in the world with Pokemon.
Yeah.
I actually think that the original Pokemon Snap is a much stronger game because it is 3 hours that knows exactly what it is and it doesn't dilute that. And it's about replayability, right? It's about the same core tenets, but they're presented in a way that doesn't feel frustrating. It took me 8.5 hours to beat the game based
Hmm.
on my play clock. In-game play clocks on Switch, thank you very much. But the game should have been 4 hours. And if it was, I would have liked it a lot more.
So I have a thesis statement about this game, and I was thinking about I was brushing my
Okay.
teeth in the bathroom this morning, getting ready for this video, preparing, if you will. And I think the problem of this game is that it's so clear where the development time went that everything that's not the beautiful
Sure.
worlds and the animation is just really lacking. And is as you said, there's some very objective design flaw decisions that make everything's around the worlds, which clearly had a lot of thought put into them, feel super super weak.
Yeah, I think it is this game more than many others to me is a symptom of a community that has intrinsically tied value to game length.
Sure.
I think that's pretty obvious. The whole game feels like it was designed to preemptively counteract the criticism that it's too short,
Yeah.
which I think is really disappointing because there are so many arbitrary grindy elements in the game. There's a plot that is completely
Oh,
unnecessary
so
and poorly presented.
superfluous.
There's just so much here that gets between an otherwise a really compelling modernization of an interesting gameplay loop, and it's
Yeah.
just disappointing.
So I've got my notes here as I'm one to do, and I know as I was playing through the game, I was just adding points that I was like, okay, yeah, I really did enjoy this. I think these are the merits of the game, and I ended up putting a lot more things that are relatively small in terms of the scope of the game, but do add up. And I think it's those points where you have a criticism with the way that something works that ends up really adding up to knocking down the experience to something a little bit lesser. I think for me, the part that I'm underwhelmed by the most is the idea of the request system is so interesting and I
Yeah.
think adds a lot of smaller challenges and let you interact with the world in smaller, interesting ways, in ways that maybe you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. However, that system is just borked 5 ways from Sunday. If you every time you go into the menu, you got to resort it again to say not completed first, or completed first, or this area. The rewards for completing them are sometimes there's none, sometimes there is one, but they're really underwhelming. The ways that the characters like present them, usually not enough information. Like some of the first one, I didn't even get a couple of the first ones in the first area. Like I was trying the courses over and over. I'm like, okay, how do I do this? But and maybe that's just my inexperience with Pokemon Snap because I didn't play the original. But they're so ambiguous and the rewards aren't very good and the menu system kind of sucks. So it's so frustrating to have this cool concept that's just buried under layers of poor design.
Yeah, I think one thing that you really hit on there is just ambiguity, which is just unnecessary in a game like this.
Yeah.
It was pretty obvious in the original Pokemon Snap that to progress you needed more points.
Yeah.
And so that was very seamless, and I think it could have been the same here. But instead, progression is tied to the Illumina system, which is just not
Kind
very
of,
clear.
sometimes.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the driving force behind the game, because to clear the first area, you got to get the Illumina Meganium, and then you
Oh,
have to
sure,
get
yeah.
all 4 Illumina Pokemon in the next area to progress to the third and final one. And you gotta light up all the Illumina areas again, you fucking find Xerneas. Spoiler alert, I guess. Who really cares?
Yeah.
Um, and it's just a weird way to progress, especially when it's so esoteric in certain respects.
Yeah.
Great word,
Yeah.
$10 word there.
That-
But
I don't have
it's,
$10 to give you, but if I did, I still wouldn't give it to you because saying esoteric is not worth $10. But I think you're right. I think my biggest complaint about the game, while I have a lot of smaller criticisms, is the fact the progression is just so ambiguous. Um, I texted you after we made our first impressions, and I realized I don't know how to move
yeah,
on to the next area. And I thought maybe it was some sort of collective amount of points that I had to get, or some certain level I had to hit on something, but I couldn't tell what because there's no professor like there's the professor or a character is in the corner telling you something about the game, but he
yeah,
doesn't have anything to do with what you have to do next. So I was going back to the first area. I was trying it at night. I was shooting Illumina orbs and stuff because I had just gotten Illumina orbs at this point, and I didn't know
sure.
quite what to do with them because they don't really explain that too well. But it doesn't make sense sometimes as to what exactly you need to do to unlock the next area to level up the research level is sometimes really tough to do because I think it's the score is based on how many points you got more than your other pictures, which is sometimes really hard to do as you're
Yeah.
getting higher research level and the pictures are getting more complex, which does feel really grindy and ended up leaving me like stuck in repeating a couple areas over and over again until a point I was just really frustrated. And at a certain point, I moved on, and that frustration was alleviated. But the fact that they don't make the progression clear enough, and it is so grindy in places that it's just really underwhelming.
Yeah, because this is a game about being in the organic world of Pokemon, but
Yeah,
progression feels inorganic at best and confusing at worst, which is
sure.
just really strange. I think the idea of a day and night course is really interesting,
Hmm.
but arbitrarily having to raise those levels to see different Pokemon just it's so transparent, and that's
Hmm.
what's frustrating about it. I think part of the success of the original game was how it was able to hide its gamey elements. Pokemon, of course, had very clear paths, but they did whatever they could to make these worlds feel organic and alive. And I just don't think that's the case here in Pokemon Snap, new Pokemon Snap. I
Well, I
think,
actually think that the worlds themselves, while I have some criticisms against a few of them, I think they are, and we'll get into probably some more positive elements about
yeah,
this game. They're the best realized Pokemon worlds we've ever seen in games.
no, sure,
Uh, they really do, especially for the first few, feel like there's Pokemon around every corner, and there's always something to look off for in the distance or is hiding. And I think they do work really well. But I think the problem, and somewhere I agree with you on, is the research system. I think is a cool concept in the way that it allows the each level to progress it
yeah.
to Pokemon being more comfortable with you and interacting in different ways. However, sometimes those research level differences are just non-existent. They're really lame. The Pokemon are doing the exact same thing, and like maybe one new Pokemon will show up, or maybe a Pokemon will take a different path. But when you spend 25 minutes to grind up this thing to level up, and you get one new Pokemon to take a picture of, it really does feel underwhelming, and it's a mechanic that I think could have been so much better served if a you get a to level 3 on a research level. If Pokemon evolve, if they're all in different places or something like that, that really recontextualize the way that you interact with the same track, that it could have been so much cooler, but they really didn't take that extra step.
Yeah, I would have changed it in this way. I wouldn't have tied the research level to the ways that the world's changed, because to
Okay,
me that feels artificial. What I would have done personally is had like a morning, like afternoon, evening, and night version of all of the stages.
sure.
And then I would have had research level be tied to your character and progression. So maybe
Okay,
you reached research level 1 and you unlocked a new item to use in the courses or something.
sure.
I think there are ways to integrate RPG elements that make progression take a little bit longer and be a little bit more engaged without making the world feel artificial.
Okay, yeah, sure.
because at the same
Especially because when you unlock a new area, it's just like, oh hey, we found a new teleportation point. What the
right.
fuck does that mean? That there's no context for like for that being in the world or for the research level doing anything for that.
Yeah.
The Professor Mirror's just like scratching his head, he farts and he's like new teleportation point, go there now.
Yeah.
And also that's another one of my minor criticisms, all things considered, but really frustrating is that the progression of how you unlock things is just so sterile, and it's like a little box opens up and you're like, yay, I got an item. And
Yeah.
Professor Mirror uses the exact same dialogue every time to present you with you unlocked something new. I have it screenshotted on my Switch, this phrase that he says every time. He's like, oh, when your pictures are squared away, I've got something exciting to report. It's like,
Yeah.
that's not charming dialogue by the 40th time you've seen it.
I actually want to touch on these items a little bit more because my
Yes.
biggest criticism with the game, Tucker, is that the items make no fucking sense.
Nope.
There is no. This again speaks to how I don't think the game feels organic.
Mm-hmm.
It feels more like you don't like theme parks, so I'm going to be talking
No.
past you with this metaphor. But there's this ride at Disney called, I think it's like Buzz Lightyear's Ranger Rescue or something, and you're going on a theme park like shooting shit as Buzz Lightyear, right?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like playing this game, because an Illumina orb, the fucking pokey flute, the fluff fruit, the scan, it's never clear what item is going to elicit what type of reaction.
Yeah.
In the original, you had the apples, you had the pester balls, and you had the poke flute. Now, the kind of weird and unsavory elements of just throwing shit at Pokemon to make them mad in their natural habitat aside,
Mm-hmm.
at least when you were playing, you understood that if you did this, you would elicit this reaction. Did that, you'd elicit that.
Mm-hmm.
But here, I'm like, I don't know. I need that Golurk to turn around. So I'm gonna throw the fluff fruit, and then I'm gonna throw the Illumina orb, and then I'm gonna play the Poke
Exactly.
Fruit,
Yeah.
and one of them is gonna do something.
It ends up just being spamming to experiment until something elicits a reaction.
Yeah.
And especially because it's not consistent between Pokemon,
No.
which I think is sometimes a good thing. Like I'm glad that not every Pokemon reacts the exact same way to every single thing that you throw at them. I think the scan affects like usually psychic and electric type Pokemon a little bit more. But some Pokemon aren't interested in food at all, which is weird. But I agree in the fact that when I got those Illumina orbs, I hate the Illumina orbs. They barely do anything. Sometimes Pokemon don't react to them at all. Sometimes they lose their shit when you hit them with an Illumina orb. Like it's spoilers, I guess, but in the last level in the ruins, there's a Noivern, and when you hit the Noivern with an Illumina orb,
He goes fucking
he
nuts.
goes batshit, and he's sending out electricity and psychic waves and stuff. I'm like, whoa, because from my experience throwing Illumina orbs and stuff, they usually just like they sniff it and start sparkling a little bit. I'm like, okay, I guess that's what an Illumina orb does. But especially with the placement of the flower, Illumina
The
flower.
Illumina flower, yeah.
Yeah, they've got a name.
Crystal Bloom.
Crystal Bloom, yes. The placements of those, which I think you're supposed to hit them with that, and then if a Pokemon's near that, they like get special energy and stuff. But that's so random, and usually there's not any Pokemon around them, so I'm like, okay, what was the point? But there's so many layers to these worlds that they want you to be able to engage with, to lure Pokemon to certain areas, to cause certain interactions, but they just don't make a lot of sense. And I think that's my problem. Is I was so excited to want to try and get Pokemon to interact, to lure them to different places, to mess with them in this way where it causes certain things. But when some of the really cool stuff has like 3 layers of setup, and okay, take a picture of this and throw an apple at this guy, and make sure you're looking at the right direction and slow down to get this to happen, it really feels like you need to follow a guide to get that, because there's no goddamn way that you're going to naturally figure out all these setups to get something, frankly, amazing animations, amazing interactions to happen. It's hidden. The cool stuff is hidden behind those layers of how the hell was I supposed to figure that out?
Yeah, especially because the best moments in the game are when the Pokemon are interacting with each other. Like, I love the Wailmer that scares the Octillery, who freaks out and jumps down the ravine.
Same Wailmer when he goes, and the Pyukumuku goes, pew! That's a great moment.
That Wailmer is just a fucking treasure. He'll make a Quillfish like expand if he gets too close to him too. There's a lot of great interactions there. But again, like you said, that so many of them are buried. And at the same time, this game also, my other major issue with the game.
Mhm.
I don't think that Professor Willow's, is that his
Mirror.
name? Mirror.
Yeah.
Professor Willow is in
Go.
Go. Professor Mirror, I don't think his prescription is strong enough because he'll accept any fucking picture you show him. You
Yeah.
can show him
Yeah.
a picture where the Pokemon is completely obscured from view most of the time, and he'll accept it. They're like, he won't always, but most of the time he will. What was so interesting about the original Snap, and what made it actually challenging, is that sometimes Oak would be like, yeah, it's just not good enough. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
I'm just not taking that picture.
Sure.
So you would have to be very deliberate. But here, if your little viewfinder flashes orange and says it's a Pokemon name, just take the picture. I know I should have done that. You take the picture. It doesn't matter if they're in the bushes. It doesn't matter if they're facing the wrong way. You're going to get a
Yeah.
lot of points for it.
Mhm.
This game feels more complicated, easier, and less clear than the original, which is
Yeah.
just frustrating.
That's a lot of things that you don't usually say about a game. I mean, at the same time, but I do think that I think there's pros and cons to all of these upgrades that
Yeah.
they've added to this game. I think that I like the fact that there are 4 versions of each picture of
Yes.
Pokemon to collect. I think that allows you to, or incentivize you rather, to want to interact in Pokemon with Pokemon in different ways throughout your different visits. However, and as we touched on in our first impressions, you can only take 1 picture of each Pokemon per route. And sometimes you'll get like almost all of them within one go, but you can't keep them. And it's like, oh well, that's really frustrating. I got cool pictures of a 3-star and a 2-star, and I could get like platinum 2-star and 3-star if I was to turn in these, but Professor Mirror is just like, no, only like 1 of each, please.
I think the problem runs deeper than that because I felt that in our first impressions, but now having beaten the game, another issue with this system is that Vivillon is a great example. There are so many different patterns of Vivillon because people know in X and Y a cool thing where there are so many different seasonal and locational variants.
Yep.
And they're back here in New Snap, but you can't save a picture of every single variant.
Yeah.
He'll still only take a 1, 2, 3, and 4-star thing.
Which, by the way, I don't think I ever got higher than a 2-star Vivillon picture. I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do with those Vivillon to get them to do more interesting things.
I found a 3-star. I can't remember if it was getting like a huge
Oh no,
swarm
I
of
did
them.
get a 3-star, and it was just the like brownish ones flying in the underground plant cave, like just existing. And I'm like, why was that a 3-star? What?
Right. And or like you find like Sawsbuck who have the different seasonal appearances too, but again, you can't take pictures of all of them. I don't understand why the game is separated in the way that it is at all times, because yeah, it is cool, getting like the Raichu who's the Alolan Raichu who's surfboarding on his tail, and you can hit him with the apple so he falls over and like looks sad, and you can take a picture and there's your 2-star and all of these. It is fun. It's a fun system, but it doesn't feel fully implemented.
Yeah. And I also think that for me, one of my favorite aspects of Pokemon is the collection and is seeing the expansive list of character designs in the Pokemon they've put next to one another, and especially with this, as you're capturing pictures of these characters, the photo decks just blows. It's terrible. There's no clear way to like sort through stuff. Like the Pokemon have their models next to it, and the pictures there. It's really weird, and I think could have been presented in a much more engaging way. That was like, okay, I want to look through this. I want to reminisce about these pictures I took. But every time I didn't open up that often, frankly. But every time I did, I was like, okay, I have to like sort through these things, and like these are like research files I'm going through, which
Yeah.
of course may be intentional, but it's not gratifying for a game.
So Tucker, I have one more major criticism, and then I do have a lot of positives because I put some on my backlog as 3 stars out of 5, just to put that out there. Because I did enjoy the game on the whole. It's just having so many expectations on this title from the community and seeing such great reviews. I just feel like I have a lot of negatives to be expressed that I haven't seen a lot of around. And my last big criticism of the game is the narrative and the character design, which I think is just bad. I think that it's the usual song and dance of modern Pokemon legendary, like mythical lore type of deal, right?
Yeah.
This is not a new archetype for storytelling, and that's okay. And I like the idea that it uses Xerneas and it incorporates the Illumina Pokemon. It's an interesting concept, right? But Professor Mirror is just uninteresting. The presentation of the story is uninteresting. The story is so simple, but it treats it so I messaged you last night that the game has delusions of grandeur because I
Sure.
think it thinks
Yeah.
its character and story are way more important than they are. And again, for me, it feeds into the game wanting to stretch everything out
Mm-hmm.
because there really aren't any plot beats. You have a
No.
rival,
No.
but all your rival does is say, "Hey, nice picture." I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
take a
Oh,
better
I
picture.
wish I'd taken that picture. Man, I fucking hate Phil. Holy
Which
shit.
which by the way is the same thing Rita and and Todd say to you. So why
Yeah.
is he even there? It just it felt again, it feels like okay, we're being reviewed in 2021 and people expect X and Y and Z out of their $60 games. We need to put a story in here.
Yeah.
But why is the story in here? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Professor Oak in the original was charming because he was like, he would laugh at you and say, you were close, and be like, hey, let's go look here, let's find you. There's your story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I like the idea of having a more engaged storyline, but it doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
would have been so interesting having an actual in-depth, here's a research lab, and here's some cool, like, we're going to study ecology, and we're going to study Pokemon biology, and let's actually bring back these pictures and think about them and analyze them and look for stuff, but the narrative goes nowhere.
So here's the thing, and I 100% agree with you. I think that this just feels, like you said, surface level. It's uninspired, but it would have been so much more interesting if they had put. Again, I think this feeds into my thesis statement. It's so
Yeah.
clear where the effort went. The effort
Yes.
did not go into the story, into the characters, into the dialogue, and into those occasional full motion cutscenes that they have with voice acting. But I'm just thinking about this, a Pokemon Snap game that really feels like it belongs in our modern ecosystem and can stand on its own as a big title. I think, okay, you have the lab and the surrounding area that maybe you can walk around with your character. You can go take side quests from those characters, and they have a little bit of dialogue to say. You can go up to them and maybe take photo challenges where you're trying to compete with them to see who can get better photos. I think there's ways that this could have been um, feel like a more modern experience with actual effort put into it, because I think maybe and you've had these criticisms before, is games try to implement open world and RPG elements where it doesn't belong. But I do think that in the context of a game that is just you going down one path, having a central hub where you could maybe walk around and take out your camera and look up above the houses or something, so it's a different context for taking pictures. I really think if there had been something more to this, instead of just watching the characters Fire Emblem Awakening style stand next to each other and babble with 3 frames of animation, it could have felt more modern, more complete, and more engaging. Because what's there is just underwhelming. I found the ending to be cheesy and stupid. I really thought that final Xerneas level sucked. It was such an underwhelming way to end it. And I was like, okay, well, why is Xerneas here? Like, isn't that just a Kalos thing? I was very confused, and then that's a minor criticism, but when you present this with, okay, we've got characters, we got voice acting, and they're sort of on the journey with you, but they're really just sending you out a bunch. Throughout the game, I just kept feeling, man, they really didn't put any effort into this, and that's really not a good way to feel when you're going through the story of a game.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and I really like your idea actually of a more interactive hub. I didn't really consider that, but it would have, I think, grounded the experience and given it a little bit more weight.
Yeah.
Um, but those are my core negatives. If I had to give one more, throw one more into the fucking fire before I get to my positives, I don't think the Illumina bosses are very good.
No, no, they're so underwhelming. Especially
I
because you can
think
only
they
take
did
one picture. You can only submit one picture of them per run.
right, and I think it misunderstands why Pokemon Snap is fun. It's not an action game.
No.
So when they're like, "Hey, throw this really slow projectile at the Pokemon to make it glow," and you can't fucking hit them because they're moving faster and erratically, it just becomes frustrating. It straddles this line between being blatantly obvious and unnecessarily frustrating,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't really work. I thought the one really cool one was the wishy-washy
Yeah.
Illumina battle where it's so disorienting and it's so dark and everything, but on the whole, they're big and they glow. Okay. I
Yeah.
gotta hit him with the fucking orb. Okay. Lame. But
Yeah.
Tucker, I have a lot of positives. Do you want to hit me with one first? Do you have any positives?
Yes, I do. Because
Me too.
again, I did enjoy this game. It was my first Pokemon Snap experience, and I think that colors my impressions more towards this was my first time interacting with detailed Pokemon worlds in this way. So I didn't have the expectations going in that you had. Of course, I know a little bit about the original game, and I do recognize some of the elements that I wish had been carried over from that or simplified to streamline the experience compared to that. But I think this is a really beautiful game.
Yeah.
I think the variety of levels, I was worried that it was really going to be a small set of levels, but as you play through, you do unlock a really good amount of levels, all things considered. And especially when Todd's just ranting like, hey, you can take pictures around the lab. I thought that was so much fun. And honestly, that ended up being one of my favorite levels. I do think the levels get less complex and interesting as you go on. The desert and the snow levels are very empty in comparison to the jungle and the fields or whatever the first areas. But on the whole, level variety is good. Each of the levels is really well rendered. And especially, I like the fact that there are multiple pathways through these areas.
Yeah.
Sometimes entirely different areas. The underwater cave or the underwater level where you go into the underwater, and then there's another path that takes you underwater
Yeah.
with glowing tentacles the glycopods are like stalking around and stuff. I really enjoyed that. So I'm very happy with the levels and the designs and stuff on the whole. Yeah, that's one of my major positives.
No, I totally agree. And I think I'd push back a little bit on the later areas because I actually found myself enjoying them a little bit more. I think it possibly is due to the variety of Pokemon that are found there. But I thought on the whole, basically every area save for the desert, which I agree is pretty lame,
Yeah.
are really well realized. Personally, I really like the beach area is the best. I'm
Yes.
partial to water Pokemon, but I think that
Mhm.
those are just so beautifully done and going underwater. It's a very cerebral game. I love the music, the ambiance, everything. Just playing it, and I do anticipate this is going to be a game that I chip away at getting more pictures in my photo decks and completing requests and everything
Sure.
because it's relaxing and it's fun to just hop in for a course or two. Um, and a great a great portion of my enjoyment is due to how deliberate the Pokemon in the game are. They made a really great effort to include people from every generation, which is so fun to see. It's so we talked about this a little bit in our first impressions, but not having played the whole game. Mixing Gen 1, Gen 8, 3, 4, 5,
Yep.
6, 7, everyone together
And
is
two.
just into. Can't forget Gen 2 as I tend to, but it's just really fun. And it's the fucking Leonardo DiCaprio meme the entire time of me
Mhm.
just saying, hey, there's a Pokemon. But
Yeah.
it's satisfying as a Pokemon fan to see these realized so beautifully when we have had such stiff Pokemon models and everything for so long.
Oh yeah.
Just throwing an apple down the hole in the snow area and a furret pops up. That's really fun. And
Yeah.
I love that Pokemon, and I love making the Sandagast appear and having him scare the other Pokemon. It's really great seeing an Octillery interact with him, or seeing a Mightyena scare the Furrets. It strikes a very particular Pokemon fan nerve in my brain.
100%. Yeah.
So
It's hard to explain, but I do think that there is that charm there that we've been waiting for and expecting the main series to develop as we continue to grow up with these characters and the worlds that they're building. And we're like, okay, they're leaning too heavily on Gen 1 nostalgia in some games like X and Y. But then we feel, okay, they're taking right steps or steps in the right direction with the wild area and Sword and Shield. But this is just leagues above anything we've gotten before. So I think in that aspect, it is one of the crowning jewels of the Pokemon series in terms of
yeah,
its realization. So regardless of all our criticisms, again, that focus and that effort that was clearly put into one area of the game does pay off in that area of the game, which, to be clear, is the main focus of the game. It's most
yeah.
of the game. So when we're doing all these criticisms, it's more of the experience as a whole. But when you're in those levels, they're they're beautiful. They're really well done. There is a great variety of Pokemon. I do think that I would have liked the levels to be more packed with Pokemon because I think my favorite areas are when there's like a area around you and there's 10 different things to look at,
Yeah.
as opposed to some of the later areas where there's like maybe 2 or 3 per section of the
Sure.
track. And I think there are some. I mean, obviously, I haven't seen every Pokemon. I didn't look at the like the list of Pokemon that are in there, but I think there's some strange omissions. Like we never see a Zubat in the game. Like there's never a caught a Zubat to annoy you or something. It's like I think that if they had mixed Pokemon together that of similar types, like if you had seen a Pidove and a Pidgey and a Starly all like interacting or something like that, or in the caves if you had a Woobat and a Zubat and a Noibat all interacting or something like that, it would have given you an incentive to look for those different kinds of Pokemon that are in similar situations and do fill similar roles, but complete more of the Pokedex in terms of what Pokemon they have represented. But
Yeah, sure.
I also, even though again it's underwhelming, I like the fact that they went with voice acting for this. It would have been very easy for them to just have it be text. The voice acting is JRPG utilized, where it's anime grunts for half the shit they say. But the fact that they included it at all does give it a little more production value.
Yeah.
And even though it's generic and yeah, oh yeah, they're anime characters saying their anime character stuff. It gives them a little more charm. So I'm glad they added that.
Yeah, I think production value in light of its shortcomings is also where the game succeeds.
Yeah.
And if you're a Pokemon fan, it's worth playing just to be in the Lental region.
Yeah.
I was just imagining when are we finally going to get a core Pokemon game like this? Not in terms of fidelity, but in terms of having these organic environments you can visit and having actual, blends of Pokemon like this. I think that this is really a realization of a side of the series we just don't get. And that's fun. And I think something that I think John Cartwright said in his review that excites me is that the game is better once you've beaten it, and you're just going back into the courses at your own pace, and you're not facing the ham-fisted progression, and you're just looking for the Pokemon you want to fill out your Photodex. I think that probably is where the game is going to shine.
Sure.
Because then we're just back to, okay, now it's about score and it's about investigation and about discovery and everything. It's not about where's the fucking crystal bloom, and I can take a picture of this one, but it's not lit up, so Mira can't see it.
The ice level crystal bloom, what a little bitch. The one in the crack where you only have like 3 seconds to take a picture, not even like 1.5 seconds. That was really frustrating for me. But you're right. I think that a lot of our problems are with the format of the game, the structure of the game.
Yeah.
And once you complete it, that's non-existent because you have access to all the levels and you can go at your own pace. And they give you access to burst mode and something else. I can't remember what that something else is. Certain different kind of request or mission or something.
It's like what is it? It's like kind of like Score Attack, where they give you a course rating based on how many Pokemon you get and how good
score
pictures
rating.
are.
Yeah, total course rating. So I don't know. I haven't played the game since I beat it, but I don't know how that'll impact the way that I interact with a level. I honestly found myself enjoying the game a lot more as I got used to it because I realized the fun is not okay. I need to really focus on try to get the specific picture of a Pokemon. Is finding Pokemon and going taking a bunch of pictures of them so you can sort through later and see which one got the best. And I was taking just like one picture of each Pokemon in my first few trips to levels, which was what my first impression exactly is my inexperience. But the game is certainly based around you just spamming the hell out of it, and it's interesting that there's a memory limit at all. But I definitely enjoyed it when I was getting closer to that memory limit and taking lots of pictures of lots of Pokemon. So I'm very happy with this game. I think that if this sells well, which I think it will, and Bandai Namco is willing, I think this could be a franchise that they take further. I think expanding it to include those the hub world and more engaging characters and a more thought out story, I think could be great. I think this could have DLC, new areas, very easy to add in an island region. But really, and if we're just going to project into the future a little bit here, all those things I'd like to see with the hub world and such. But I think it'd be really cool to have a Pokemon Snap game that you're going through regions we're familiar with. I think visiting locations and seeing them realize, not from a top-down pixel perspective, but with the Jubilife City buildings towering over you, or
cool.
Going through the autumn swamp of Kalos, stuff like that, I think really could be a fun way to realize those games in a new light and see the Pokemon from that region interacting a specific way. Because Lentil, while it's beautiful and it's the best realized reason, it doesn't have the charm that other Pokemon regions have because
Sure.
it's placed through these very specific tracks and very specific, okay, you need to go here now, and there's no exploration and stuff. So I think for a future Pokemon Snap game, focusing it around traveling around the world, filling out a travelogue of regions of Pokemon, and visiting cities and routes and areas that we're familiar with could be really cool. And that combined with a little larger scope in terms of character interaction, quests, and hub world could make this a really great series, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that that's such a compelling idea, and having one more big proper snap could be interesting. But as I was playing, for as much as I was enjoying it, I was having a hard time seeing how this really moves forward. And I think you have some really interesting ideas about returning to the old regions, but giving it also that hub and making it more involved. But in my opinion, I almost feel like, yeah, it's in the title, the new Pokemon Snap, and that's that.
Mhm.
Personally, in my opinion, I think that
Didn't
Bandai
stop him with
Namco.
Mario Bros.
That's a good point. We're gonna get new Pokemon Snap U.
Oh no.
I
New
think
Pokemon Snap Wii. That doesn't make any sense, but it just happens.
Bandai Namco's talents are better used elsewhere.
Sure.
I think give them a different Pokemon spinoff, give them a different Nintendo franchise. But what would be cool and would be fucked up if they didn't do this. Winter DLC pack for this game, where you see the same areas in wintertime and
Okay.
the ice area has melted. It's like in the other hemisphere or something. Give us, as you were saying, the Pokemon that are missing. Repurpose the areas with new seasonal environments, new Pokemon, new behaviors. Give it one nice second DLC push. I think that'd be
Sure.
good. But I don't know. I don't know if I want another Pokemon Snap now. I feel like I might have gotten my fill personally.
I think the thing is with this game, it does feel like they are really just modernizing the original, and I think,
Yeah.
as I said, a lot of the newer elements to it weren't properly fleshed out. But I
Yeah.
do think that while we're riding the not quite high of this game coming straight off of it, I think in a couple years' time, if we get a trailer that is
Sure.
going through regions you're familiar with and seeing them beautifully rendered, like honestly going through cities, like
Yeah.
and seeing people walking around and stuff and visiting locations you're familiar with, I really I guarantee that would grab you in a way that you're maybe just not feeling
Yeah.
right now coming off of this one.
I'm sure it would, but I think the other thing I've realized a little bit is that does this necessarily have to be its own game?
Mm,
Like if something like a Legends Arceus works out, why can't you just make that a Pokemon Snap also? Why
mhm.
doesn't your fucking guy carry a little camera or something?
Well, they did that a little bit in Gen 7. If you'll think back, there were certain spots where you could
Oh
take
yeah.
pictures. And I never engaged with that unless the tutorial forced me to. But
But I think expand that out further. I mean, photo modes are so popular,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Or just Gen 9 has a snap mode in it. I think even if you want to put it back on rails, maybe combine Soar and Snap. Hop on a fucking Pokemon and it takes you through a tour through whatever the new region is, and you're clicking little pictures. I think there are
It'd be a really
ways.
fun, like, you beat the game, now you're
Yeah,
able to do this reward. Oh, that'd be fantastic.
I think there's ways to integrate this into something bigger,
Sure.
because I just feel like this game is have new Pokemon Snap has an existential crisis in the fact that it's scared to just be a replayable arcade game.
Hmm.
And I think it would have been stronger as it. So I think, in my opinion, the natural progression is to put it in a more inherently modern context.
Sure.
So a lot of different ways to go. You gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I gave it a 3 stars out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
It's a solid game.
Yeah, it's a did I enjoy spending $60 on it? No, probably not. But I got this review out of it, and honestly, we had a very good conversation here.
Yeah.
So the experience on the whole was worth it. I'm very glad I gave the shot to Pokemon Snap, and all we can hope is that by the time that we're going back and playing through the levels, the game strength shine a little better without that progression. So
Yeah.
maybe our thoughts on it will improve over time as we experience the game through that post game lens. But this is our our thoughts as we just beat the game. We just reached the climax that they're so excited for us to get to.
Yeah.
But it's not quite hitting.
No.
No.
Well, Tucker, we'll be back for more gaming content, of course, but we'll be especially back for probably an equally critical review of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
The next big frontier for the Pokemon series.
We'll see you guys in other videos. Thank you very much for watching. Join the Discord, like, subscribe, all of that, and hopefully stick around for other gaming and other kinds of videos.
Content. This
Okay,
video,
real
Tucker,
shit.
No, you stop. This video is a
Restart your mic art again. Well, this video is a smart start to our day. Yeah.
Yeah, no, let's try it. Let's get a clean rip of it though. Tucker, this video is a
smart start
to your day.
Yep.
You weren't supposed to say it though. It's supposed to be like a visual joke.
Oh well.